To you folks, we're getting some information just as this band moved through Dandridge and Jefferson County of some sleet, some melted snowflakes. And if you look real closely, yeah, it looks like we do have some light snow falling. Actually, it's mixing with the rain, but this is our live camera in Dandridge at the Dandridge Dock and Douglas Lake. So we're starting to see that transition in some areas of the rain mixing with and changing over to some light frozen precipitation, a little bit of sleet and a little bit of wet snow. And that process will gradually continue as we go through this evening. Now, heaviest snowfall with this particular event is going to continue to be in the mountains. That's where it's snowing steadily right now. Parts of the plateau in Kentucky. Also, we've had reports even in northern counties in East Tennessee seeing that mixed precipitation. So we're going to walk through all the maps. We'll spend some time here and go through not only the system for tonight, giving us a chance for some light wintry weather. Again, not expecting a whole lot of snow in the valley, number one, up front. Again, just not the favored scenario and setup for snowfall in the valley. We could see a little bit of light snow flurries. We're seeing some of that right now in Dandridge. But there may be a few slick spots overnight and in the morning as the ground and the air gets colder. But the main snowfall with this event is going to be in the mountains. We're going to be spending some time talking about the much colder air moving in with low wind chills. Get this, 4 out of the next 5 mornings, our wind chills are going to be in the teens. And tonight will be in the teens and single digits for wind chills. So we're talking about some blustery winds and much colder air. So that's part of the main story. Of course, we'll talk about the chance for snow showers tonight, etc. But the big main story is much colder air is in the process of moving in. So get ready to bundle up and dress warmly. And the nights will be in the teens and 20s. The days will be in the 30s and maybe a few low 40s, but much more winter-like and January-like pattern basically the next 5 days. So we'll talk more about that just ahead. So again, here's what we're looking at. Do want to think we did have one of our weather watchers give us a report of a little bit of that granulated, partially melted sleet, ice pellets, and basically sticking to some of the car tops in Dandridge. And so again, that's when we hopped on over to our Douglas Lake Dandridge camera, and you can see it's just that light rain and light snow flurries kind of mixed in right now in Dandridge. Let's kind of walk through some of the particulars, and I'll get through our detailed maps coming up in just a moment. Here's what we're looking at in Knoxville. We dropped down to 41. That's our low for the day as well. After being in the low 50s earlier, we've had, as expected, rain in the valley initially, and now we're starting to get that colder moving in, so we're going to start seeing that mixed precipitation, most of it on the light side for most of East Tennessee, except the mountains where it will be heavier. And again, we'll talk more about that in just a moment. Winds are west at 14 miles per hour, so we're going to still see that breezy wind that's going to be shifting around actually from a westerly direction to the northwest. And so as you know, northwesterly winds bring in the colder air. But it's also this northwest flow direction where you typically have higher elevations of the plateau and the mountains as favored areas for snowfall. Why? We call it orographic uplift or upslope flow, because think about it, you know, Middle Tennessee and Nashville, you know, it's lower elevation. Yet you go down Monterey Mountain if you're traveling 40, you go up the mountain from Rockwood, of course, and up to Crossville, and then you kind of flatten out in Crossville, then you go down the mountain. So the plateau is a formidable mountain barrier, if you will. It's a plateau, a little flatter on top, and so on either end of that, it's lower elevations, but as the air rises over the plateau, it lifts the air, it cools, and that's why parts of the plateau, as it cools, gets more wintry weather compared to lower elevation areas on either side of the plateau. So you look at the mountains. As you go up in elevation, you typically get colder and you see better chances for snowfall in general. Now, it all depends on the setup. All right, and we'll talk more about that in time, but that's what we're seeing as we see that light snow and mixed precipitation starting to come back on the plateau. Again, we've had the rain in the valley, and notice where the snow is, where it's rising up in elevation, forced to rise, that orographic upslope flow into the Appalachians and the Smoky Mountains. That's where a winter storm warning is in place, and we're going to see some decent snow amounts up in the mountains. And so travel not recommended at all through the mountains. Matter of fact, 441 is closed. So that's what we're seeing right now. Let me stop the radar, and we'll kind of zoom on in a little bit for Dandridge, Jefferson County areas. And just to show this, we're seeing a little bit of mixed precipitation, actually, as you can see right here. Let me take it full here, and we'll show you that, what we're looking at right there. Again, coming south out of Jefferson County, down into northern Sevier County and Cocke County. Again, keep in mind what's going on here, right? The air is flowing from northwest to southeast, starting to turn in that direction, and it's starting to flow up into the mountains, so it's rising air. So as you get closer to the mountains, you're seeing that rising air. The air's cooling. So what do we have? We have the rain initially coming out of the valley areas like Strawberry Plains and Dandridge, but it's starting to rise. So this is where you're getting that mixed precipitation. Of course, also we have some of the formidable mountain ranges. You got English Mountain, you got Chilhowie Mountain Range, so you got your ridges and mountains, and obviously it's rising over that, and especially up to the mountains. And then, of course, you're looking at more snow. Let me loop this and kind of show you how it's playing out. I know that goes by fast. Let me slow it down. Just from the, let's see what the last hour looks like, and you can kind of see that transition just right there. I know that's still pretty fast. I'll slow it down just a little bit more so we can kind of see how that's playing out. Basically what we're looking at here again is we're looking at the rain mixing with and changing snow showers as that air is rising up into elevation. So that's what we're looking at going on in parts of Jefferson, Sevier, and Cocke counties, among other places, including Blount County and others. So let me widen back out and show you what else is going on across our region as far as, again, more of the rain showers continue in parts of the valley, and then we're looking at the snow continuing into the mountainous areas. So that's what we're seeing right now. Again, the expectation for tonight is going to be for some of this rain showers we're seeing now in the valley to mix with some light snow and flurries, and we could see maybe a dusting or a skiff in a few spots where the bands develop, but not much snow expected in the valley. So primarily the snow is going to continue over the higher elevations of the mountains and the plateau. So let's move forward with our Futurecast, and I'll kind of go through and walk it through almost hour by hour here as we got some time on our live stream. Thank you for joining us, and I hope you're having a great Wednesday and a good week so far. There's a look at coming up at 8 p.m., which is what, 20 minutes from right now, 7:40 currently on this Wednesday night. We're looking at the snow in the mountains, a little bit of a break in the valley mid-evening, I should say, and then we're going to see, it doesn't show up a whole lot, nothing overly heavy, but some of that light snow and flurries will be possible once again coming on the plateau, parts of Kentucky. There could be a few of these light snow flurry bands. That's what our high-res models have been showing, and that's what will have the potential to maybe see the flurries. Again, not expecting a whole lot in the valley. There'll be some areas where, you know, you may not see anything on the grass or the ground, etc. But where we see a few of these bands developing, you can get a little bit of a light coating. And with temperatures dropping to 20s, we don't want you to let your guard down. There could be a few slick spots, and even if there's any moisture left over on the road, the winds kind of help to dry the roads out some, but if there's any moisture left over, we could have some icy patches in the morning because of simply the colder air moving in. We'll start out your Thursday morning in the low to mid 20s. Again, tonight, tomorrow morning, with wind chills in the single digits and teens. So it's going to be very cold, much colder, and that will help to maybe give some areas some slick spots. So again, even though it may not be a whole lot of snow, it only takes a little bit sometimes to, you know, cause a few slick spots. Most of that would be on bridges, no practice we see that, and untreated back and secondary roads if we see that developing. Now, this is just past midnight tonight, so let's continue to move forward, and you kind of have to look closely. It's, let me go ahead and take that back full, so I'll point it out here. But there's a little bit more light snow flurry bands that will be possible even into tomorrow morning. And so that's what we're seeing coming out of parts of Kentucky, Virginia, and down into parts of East Tennessee. So that's what we're looking at as far as the latest high-res model. Let me switch over. I'm going to show you a different model, and we'll go forward. It's basically hinting at the same thing, but you can kind of see right here, see a little bit of these light snow bands. This is midnight tonight. So parts of the plateau and also up in Kentucky. Again, you see from Morristown to Newport. So notice how it's not a lot, number one, but where you see these bands, these northwest to southeast bands, these are the ones that can lay down a coating. So even in parts of the valley, we may see a few of those bands developing. Let me kind of walk forward with this model, and I'll try to point out some different time frames. This is 1 a.m. Again, some of that moves in the valley a little bit from Dandridge, New Market, Talbot, Morristown areas, 3 a.m. and on down toward Cocke County. And then as we head into your Thursday morning, there's a little bit more. That's 9 a.m. So notice what we're seeing again right there. Kind of stop it right there. That's what we're looking at in terms of seeing that chance for a few of those striations, some of these bands rotating out of Kentucky back down toward Dandridge and across parts of the central and the northern valley. So that's what we're seeing. Again, it may be harder to see because, you know, the colors, that's how light it is. But the cold air is going to squeeze out some light snow and flurries, and so we'll see a few of those striations, these bands, kind of rotating on through. And that's what could, again, give us a little bit of light coating, a few slick spots in the morning. So number one in the morning, bundle up out the door. I'm going to show you that graphically in just a moment. It's going to be much colder. And then as we head through the rest of our Thursday, this is one high-res model that just, you can see that a little bit better. Notice how it keeps that little band. It's almost, and believe it or not, I'll interject this, this is almost like a similar effect to what you see sometimes with lake effect when you're closer to the Great Lakes. Now, we have lakes in East Tennessee. They're basically not big enough to have much of an effect. They could have a very tiny micro-scale effect sometimes. If we've seen that actually play out. We saw it play out one time last year, actually, downstream, just a little bit of an enhancement. But basically, you got to have a big body of water like the Great Lakes. But what I want to interject is there is some Great Lakes moisture from Lake Michigan being tapped into that could actually be feeding down into some of these bands all the way down into Kentucky, Virginia, and East Tennessee. How about that? So the Great Lakes even add in just a little bit of moisture, not much, and that's why we're not expecting a whole lot except in the mountains. All right, so that's our setup. So let me move forward and talk about and show you how much snowfall are we looking at potentially. And here comes our map loading up here. Again, easily and clearly, the heaviest snowfall amounts are expected to be in the mountains, 4 to 6 inches plus. I mean, at one point, some models were cranking out some 8 to 10 inches amounts, highest elevations. Not too unusual in winter and January for the mountains to get heavy snow, right? And particularly, remember I mentioned the northwest flow rising air into the mountains. That's perpendicular to the mountains. That forces the air to rise up rapidly, and that's where you get a lot of that moisture squeezed out in the colder air in the form of heavy snow. So that's why the mountains will see some heavy snow. Now, back to the plateau, a dusting to a ½ inch possible, mainly light accumulation, but just enough to make some roads slick. And again, it's going to be much colder. So it's sometimes when the ground's warm, it may not stick, or if it's wet and it only gets down close to freezing, you probably don't have to deal with too much icy spots. Tomorrow morning, we're down into the low to mid-20s. So eventually, it's going to get cold enough to maybe create some slick spots, especially if you experience and we see some of those snow bands. Again, you may not, but parts of the valley, notice in our high-res model, it's trying to pinpoint, notice it's actually trying to pinpoint some of these, what we call mesoscale, smaller scale boundaries that are tapping into some of that extended moisture, even from the Great Lakes, and feeding down in that northwest flow. So even notice how it kind of bridges across and comes across the valley and holds together. So that's interesting. It's a very focused boundary. If you're underneath that, you may see it's almost like a snow squall. You may see a decent little enhancement to it. But this is like lake effect too. Either side of that, no, I don't see a thing. You could call your neighbor, 5 miles down the road and, oh yeah, it's snowing in my house. I don't have anything. So it's probably the narrow nature of those bands where we're gonna see the variability. Some areas get some light snow flurries, maybe coating, and some areas don't. That's the nature of what we're probably gonna see in the valley. But the further north you go up into Kentucky, Virginia, and the plateau, that's where we have a chance for anywhere from a dusting or a coating, and up to an inch or two in Bell and Harlan counties. That's the higher elevation of Kentucky. You guessed it, mountainous areas, perpendicular, squeezing out the snow, also in parts of Virginia. And also into western North Carolina, as I mentioned, 441 is closed through the Smoky Mountains. Now, 40 is at a lower elevation. If folks are traveling through there, and I'm not sure if they've treated that or not, to be honest with you, hopefully have, but your travel through there, need to use caution. It's not recommended through the mountains in general tonight, so you certainly have to use caution. And if somebody was going to travel, the earlier the better, but yeah, not recommended through the mountains because snow is going to continue. Okay, so that's our snowfall. When we talk about the higher elevations, have you heard us talk about the horseshoe? Well, this is it. And we talked about it, the northwest flow, rising air over the plateau in Kentucky and Virginia, typically get more snow because of the northwesterly winds forcing the air to rise. Flying over the valley where it dips back down. See, you come off the plateau, I'm gonna switch sides, but if you come, you're rising on this side of the plateau, on the eastern side of the plateau, you're coming back down in the valley, right? As you go 40, right? You come down into the valley. It's a beautiful view as you're coming from Crossville down toward Rockwood, but that's a lower elevation. So the air descends, that typically warms and sinks, and that doesn't rise, it's opposite. So when you have a strong northwest flow, you're going to get snow on the plateau a lot of times, or rain, as the case may be, whatever the temperature, but you're not going to see as much precipitation in general in the valley. And then wrapping around, of course, that air is forced, as we already talked about, to rise in the mountains. So that forms the horseshoe. It's just simply a pattern. It's not, we call it an effect. It's almost, it's not so much an effect, it's a pattern. And it's the shape of a horseshoe or horseshoe. In the middle, that's where the lower elevation valley is, and we typically see less snow. Now, that's just this particular pattern with the northwest flow. If you want snow in the valley, you want a winter storm system to develop along the Gulf Coast and right up from Alabama, basically from Birmingham near Atlanta, just to our south, and where have you heard this before? Where it's coming up the valley and cold air is already in place. For snow lovers, that's what you want. You want a low pressure storm, if you want a lot of snow, I should say, and to develop to your south and on the Gulf to our south, and with cold air already in place. Then this is not in play. Then everybody gets in. We've seen some systems where topography doesn't play as much of a role when it's coming up the valley with cold air already in place, see? So then it's more parallel to those higher elevations, and everybody gets in on it. So if you're in the valley, you want a good snow, typically needs to come up the valley from the southwest. So here's what we're looking at as far as our winter weather alerts. Again, in pink, this is for the Smoky Mountains of Blount, Sevier, and Cocke counties. A winter storm warning, again, travel not recommended. For Monroe County, near Tellico Plains, western North Carolina, and Greene County, as far as our Channel 10 viewing area, winter weather advisory. Hazardous travel is possible in the mountains where we see some of those slick roads. So again, it all depends on if those roads may or may not have been treated. And again, it's going to be getting colder and colder. Early on, not as bad this evening, but overnight tonight and especially tomorrow morning, it's going to be a lot colder. Probably going to be icy and slick. So take that into account. Harlan County, you have a winter weather advisory as well. Now, what about the areas shaded in brown or tan here? This is where we could see a few slick spots possible. And this is what we were talking about. As the air gets colder, the ground gets colder and gets chilled eventually, even if we don't see a whole lot of snow or flurries, which we're not really expecting much in the valley, but any moisture could actually freeze, and we may have some icy patches. We're not expecting widespread black ice or anything because the winds are going to be blowing, and that typically helps to dry some of the roads and pavement out as well. So again, if we get under one of those snow bands, that's where we could see a brief coating. So don't let your guard down. A few slick spots possible late tonight and early for your Thursday morning. So that covers our wintry weather alerts, and that winter storm warning for the mountains goes until 11 a.m. tomorrow. So let's come back and talk about those temperatures and wind chills now. 24 in the morning, 32 for a high tomorrow, but that's not what it's going to feel like. Again, high's not even given above freezing, but here's the forecast wind chill. This is 8 a.m., got 15 in Knoxville maybe. Single digits to the north, what it feels like. This is the wind chill. It'll feel like it's in the single digits to low to mid-teens, area-wide. And of course, in the mountains, it will be below zero wind chill, of course. Again, not only as you go up in elevation, does it get colder, the winds increase. It gets windier. So you get everything, you go up in the mountains basically, right? You get the cold, you get the snow, you get the lower wind chills, of course. So yeah, not a great time to be obviously having to travel through the mountains. We do have a coworker that's going to the mountains on Friday. Her name is Leanne. And we had a talk today about have a great time, going to spend some time there. Boy, you picked a great time to go. Safe travels. There's going to be another system coming in Friday night and Saturday. I'll talk more about that in just a moment. That could give us some more light wintry weather. So, side note there as far as while we're talking about the mountains. But bundle up and make sure everybody's warm. 4 out of the next 5 mornings, those wind chills are going to be in the teens. And look at our wind chills even through the day tomorrow. They stay in the teens because our highs will not get above freezing. So that's what we're looking at as far as going forward with the cold air. Now these are current temperatures. Nashville's down to 38. Again, 41 in Knoxville. It's 27 in Lexington, 21 up in Indianapolis. These are the current wind chills. Feels like 5 in Indianapolis. So there's your single digit wind chills. Here's your teens. So the air in Lexington should be down here in Knoxville basically by tomorrow morning. So that's the air mass. That's that northwest flow. So what we see from Indianapolis and Lexington is heading our way in terms of the colder air with the breezy, gusty winds, blustery conditions, and lower wind chills. So get ready, even down in the deep south. Now, after we finish going through the maps, I'll go ahead and get to our forecast tonight, tomorrow, and the 7-day. While I'm on the regional map, I do want to go ahead and point this out. If you're going to be traveling in the southeast, this weekend, which, believe it or not, there's actually some models are showing a chance. This is not necessarily the Friday night, Saturday system. This is an additional system late Saturday night into Sunday across the deep south to our south. We're going to be cold and starting to be mainly dry as we go into our late Saturday and Sunday and most of MLK Day Monday here in East Tennessee. While we're cold and dry, for example, on Sunday, you got places, and Saturday night, you got places like Alabama, Georgia, into South Carolina, even low country of South Carolina, maybe coastal Carolinas, possibly wintry weather. It's going to be a low pressure system. It's going to be, with the cold air that's moving in this weekend, they're going to have a chance for wintry weather. What do you think the grocery stores are doing right now? How about enjoy the Carolinas? I'm teasing a little bit. I know we like to have fun with that too. But yeah, on a serious note, they got some very cold air and they got a chance for wintry weather. And again, it only takes a ½ inch to inch to cause some huge issues, obviously. Slush and snow in the deep south where they typically don't see it. And oh, by the way, down in Florida, this cold air is going to be plunging all the way through the northern and central part of the Florida Peninsula with some very cold air, even some sub-freezing temperatures at night. So this is going to be a pretty good impact in terms of the very cold air. Well, here's the map. Notice we have one front that's moving through, chilling us down. The second front has the really cold air with it. Okay, so that's the one. And actually, I made this map about an hour or so ago, hour and a half. So actually, the placement of that would be closer to Indianapolis now. Everything is shifting, moving to the southeast. This is a static map, but everything's moving. So those fronts will combine together to bring us that chilly air. So there's what we're looking at, letting this play on through. And so then we clear out later tomorrow. Friday starts out dry. Look at that. Now, this is models, just to be totally transparent and candid with you. Obviously, we'll always try to do our best, give you the most accurate forecast. Over the last week or so, this is what models have been doing. Up and down, heavy snow one day, next day, no, nothing. They're seeing the pattern that's evolving and changing, and they sometimes modeling, computer modeling, sometimes struggles when you have a lot of cold air, Arctic air. They don't do as well with that, and you have more of a volatile pattern or a varying pattern, an active pattern. So they've been trying to resolve that with a lot of modeling, and if you've been on social media, yeah. Won't say anything more about that, but you know, people just throw out whatever. And a lot of times, you know, it's just, you look for consistency. So this is more than what models were showing yesterday. So does that mean it's a guarantee? No, obviously, right? We'll see if it's a trend. It's a hint. It is a little bit more developed for Friday night. This is Saturday, this is basically overnight, Friday night, early Saturday morning. So got another chance, and this is a pause point. This actually went all the way in. Let me back it up a little bit so you can see the context here. So here's what we're seeing. So as we go through Friday, again, and this is just one model solution, but I just wanted to give you a heads up because that's 2 days away. We do have, it's bringing in another chance for probably another maybe light rain to snow shower mix, almost like an Interstate 40 dividing line initially. There you see the plateau playing a role right there. Just point that out. See, there's a reason, you know, there's always a reason where it's snowing, where it's not, right? Usually look for a topography, higher elevation, a ridge or a mountain, okay, among others. All right, so here's what we're looking at going forward then. There's our Saturday night, Sunday morning. So that's as far, I believe that's as far as this model goes out. No, actually I can carry it out further. We'll go out further. So there's a look at Saturday morning, and so it continues to kind of develop that and then moves on through. That's like overnight Friday night and early Saturday morning, if this model's correct. So we'll have to see if that's a trend. And let's see, that's as far out, that is as far out as that model goes. So that'll take us into Saturday afternoon. So we're going to watch Friday night and Saturday morning early for another potential wintry weather. Again, just letting you know we're keeping eyes on that, but that's not a forecast. That's just what some of our modeling's showing, and we'll see if that's a trend. That's as far as this goes out, but again, another separate system to what I mentioned. Most models are in decent agreement. Let me see if I can go, I'll show you that real quick. See if I can find that here. Bear with me just a second, because I'm just loading up a new model. Okay. Actually, it'll be good to show this because this is a good example of what we look at with computer model. So this is a different model entirely, but I'll walk through the same time frame. So notice what it shows Friday. It's got a little bit more of the rain. It shows the rain snow mixture, not as developed, right? It's got a little bit more of the warmer air coming up the valley. And again, it's just a model. We look at a lot of models, a lot of computer models, and then put together a forecast. And then it has the snow on the backside. So still it shows a system moving through Friday night, Saturday morning, a little bit less developed. But the other reason I'm showing this, because it does go out further. And so there you go. Again, I'm going to have to, we're talking about deep south. I mean, to our south, this is Sunday afternoon. So late Saturday night and Sunday morning, I mean, we may be going from Georgia to Georgia, South Georgia, and L.A., lower Alabama, right, and into coastal and low country of South Carolina. Now, we'll see if that verifies. Again, it's going to be marginal. It's hard to get snow all the way to the Atlantic Ocean, the coast. Very hard. But it can happen. They're watching it in Myrtle Beach right now for potential. Again, you can only imagine what they're look at that. It's got it all the way to the Outer Banks. That's by Sunday evening. Notice it's marginal, rain and snow, but I just wanted to point that out. That's just a system. Let's just let this model go ahead and play all the way out. So then we're somewhat drier and colder. We'll finally get a break, and we'll start to warm up the second half of next week. All right, so let me kind of focus in on the details going forward. We're going to show our 7-day coming up, and I'll go back to the radar, and again, we'll keep you updated throughout the rest of tonight. So for the rest of tonight, we've seen the rain. Pretty much the rest of tonight, we're starting that transition to some light snow and flurries. Not expecting a lot of snow in the valley, but could see a few light snow flurry bands that could produce a quick coating or dusting. Even in some valley areas, they give us some slick spots in the morning. Again, not everywhere, but could be a few of those bands. So that's what it looks like tonight and in the morning. So breezy and colder. Again, those wind chills in the morning, single digits and teens. And yeah, blustering cold tomorrow, our high of 32. Some of those snow flurries possible. Now I've got AM, one of our highest models even has a chance for flurries into the afternoon. And this is, a lot of times when you see Arctic air, a lot of times it's almost what we call dandruff. Sometimes it's so light. Don't be surprised to just see flurries like it's sunny and then a cloud comes over and you see a few flurries. That's typical. It's just that one cloud, it's just cold and it's just wringing out that moisture when it's that cold. But gradual clearing otherwise in the afternoon, but wind chills staying cold in the teens. So here's your 7-day forecast. Again, this first system tonight and tomorrow, much colder air, breezy winds, and then we'll gradually see improvements. There's our Friday night and Saturday morning system. Again, I've got the chances at 40% right now and then 30% early Saturday. Obviously, if we see what we've seen today in some of our models, that trend may be going up in terms of our chances. And so we're just Wednesday today. So we'll be looking at it tonight and obviously taking a good, strong look at that tomorrow. So check back in. We'll give you updates. And we'll continue to do these streaming updates whenever there's some active weather. So just plan to, you can always, as you already know, keep it right here. And you can watch us streaming almost any time of the day or night now, as we'll give you that full coverage. So here's what we're looking at. As we go past that, we start to dry out here in East Tennessee, watching that coastal storm, potentially, or deep south storm for Saturday night and Sunday to our south. That will be interesting. Sunday looks cold again, only 32. 18 Sunday night, Monday morning, 39 for Monday, MLK Day. Looks to be mostly sunny. And then I've got a 20% chance. Some models were showing something, a potential system Monday night and Tuesday. They've kind of taken that away like they've been doing off and on the last few days. So it looks less chances. We'll see if that comes back around. But otherwise, 44 next Wednesday. That will feel a good bit warmer. But that matches, again, Friday as our warmest days of this 7-day period. We're cold for at least the next 5, 6, almost 7 days with those morning lows, most mornings in the 20s and even upper teens before we see, again, a rebound later next week. By the way, it just seems like MLK Day is just always cold around this time of year. And the last 2 Januaries, you remember, it's about this time of year. Last 2 years in a row in January, we've seen some heavier snows. Not the same story this time around, but at least we do have some chances for winter weather. So it looks like climatologically, this is a favorite time of year, typically from mid-January through the first half of February. Most of the time, if you're going to get snow in East Tennessee, that's when you typically see it. And yes, we know about March and even early April in East Tennessee. All right, so that will do it for our forecast. Again, I'm just going to go back to radar. And actually, I want to check back on Dandridge and Douglas Lake. I think a lot of that moisture's moved out. Just a quick little summary, and we'll conclude for tonight, and we'll have another update. Yeah, most of that precipitation, don't see much falling in Dandridge right now. It was earlier. We're still at 41 with the wind chill of 33. That's dropping. And again, if you're just now joining us, tuning in, just wanted to let you know it's snowing in the mountains, winter storm warning. That's where most of the snowfall with this system will be across the higher elevations. Light rain starting to taper off. We got a little bit of a break for, looks like maybe a few hours besides a few, light rain drops or flurries mixing in. And then we will see that transition to a chance for those light snow showers and flurries once again as we go overnight into early tomorrow morning. and that's a look ahead to our Thursday. It's going to be a blustery and very cold day tomorrow, so that's what we're looking at. You certainly want to bundle up. As again, evidence of the cold air. Looking regionally, just wanted to show the updated temps. 36 now in Nashville, just dropped 2 degrees. It's down to 26 in Lexington and 21 in Indianapolis. And there's your wind chills. Feels like 13 in Lexington. That's the type of air that's coming our way. We'll be here in the morning. Hey, thank you for joining us. Hope you have a good, safe night. Stay warm, stay safe. And again, we'll keep you updated throughout the night. We'll have weather streams continuing with our live coverage into tomorrow morning as well. And anytime there's inclement weather. Hope you have a great night.